Hey everyone, welcome to the show. We are one Dio short for now, but we will be awaiting his arrival. But I am Crenshaw, and tonight we are going to be joined by, as you see right here, John Bull from John's Long Box,
How you doing?
comic book of fan extraordinaire and promoter, and just all around good guy. And we are just as we are about to start, we are talking about board games because he's a big board gamer, and I've never even touched the stuff.
Really? You've never played? You never played Risk, Monopoly, Stratego?
Well, I mean, Monopoly and things like that, but yeah, and even those fairly rarely. You buy a game with the, and, my family's not a big board game family, so you play once, and then no one really gets in the mood for it ever again. You
Well,
know.
you played Monopoly wrong, like everybody else on the planet. Right? You did the free parking and you get all the money.
um. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
The, the
and
object of the object of Monopoly is to take everybody else's money. You know what I mean? And every
yeah,
time you add money into the system, all you're doing is prolonging the game. So if you read
yeah,
the rules, free parking is just a safe spot. Nothing happens. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
does that. Like I've been in a game group for a couple of years, and you know, keep in mind, the Monopoly was made in like the 20s or something like that, 1920. So it's
Yeah.
like 100 years old. Just imagine playing a 100-year-old video game. Like the mechanics, or the mechanisms rather of the game are pretty dated. Like roll and move is something you don't see anymore. Roll the dice. You
Mhm.
know, it's almost like Monopoly. It's you have such little choices.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a great game in the fact that it has longevity. It's one of the first, but it's a terrible game in its design compared to what comes out now. Like, if you want to play Monopoly, I play Lords of Vegas. That's
Mhm.
it came out like 7 or 8 years ago. It's just phenomenal. Everybody who's ever played that game is like, let's play that again. That was
Yeah.
a good game. But as I was saying with Monopoly, me and my friends, we had a revelation that none of us have ever played. We all hate Monopoly, but we all like we've never actually played it. So I said it's not fair to Monopoly that we never played it by the rules. So we all chipped in a couple of bucks. We all threw in $5 in a pot. One of the guys bought a cheap Monopoly, and we played it according to the rules, box rules. And the game lasted an hour and a half, and it wasn't bad. And
Yeah.
I also read up on the strat. Like one of the rules in Monopoly that nobody pays attention to is, first off, the free parking rule isn't in the rules. The second
Uh,
is you physically have to put the houses on the board, and
yeah.
then you physically have to put the hotels on the board. You can't, and you can't skip. So if you have the three yellow territories, the three yellow streets or whatever,
Mhm.
buy one house. You can't buy a second house on that until you put a house on that one and a house on the third. There has
Oh.
to be a full number of houses. And if there's not enough houses in the box to put on the board, you can't increase.
Hmm.
So one of the strategies in Monopoly is to buy up all the houses. There's 28 houses or something like that.
Uh,
So if you buy all the houses, nobody could buy hotels.
so like the real gameplay really cuts it down to a manageable time
Right, right,
time
right.
limit.
Yeah, and there's a strategy. So you just doesn't matter. You buy whatever territory you. And here's another rule: nobody plays. I land on a Pacific Avenue. I don't buy it. It goes right up to bid.
Hmm.
You know, again, nobody reads the rules of Monopoly. So like, I don't want it. And then right away you start bidding it. You start bidding it, and then so theoretically, the whole board, you just go around the board once, and everything is
Yeah.
bought. Everything is taken care of.
Hmm.
You know, the only new income in the game is when you pass go. You get that
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah.
That's it, and you have to pass go. You don't, because then you land on go and you get $400. What we used to play. No, you play
Yeah.
according to the rules. The only rule that really hurts the game is that 10%. When you
Mhm.
either pay 200, the income tax, 10%.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just stops the game, and everybody figures out that you argue how much the houses are values and everything like that.
Yeah.
That destroys the game. So like when we play, it's just $200, just two hundred
Yeah.
dollars. You know, we
Yeah.
we don't we didn't do that, and I gotta say it was fun. It wasn't a great game. It's not a great game. And then the other game that everybody plays is Risk. and I love Risk. Hey, Dio, are you
Hey,
here?
how's it going, brother? Good to
Hey,
see
how's
you
it going?
guys.
I'm monologuing about board games. Is that okay?
I listen. I'm enthralled. I was paying much attention,
Are,
so I'm
Okay,
listening.
so
are you?
so
Have you been a board gamer, Dio?
Yeah, for sure. Like off and on through life. I mean, I wouldn't mind when the girls get a little older, maybe playing some board games at the house and doing some stuff like that. But I
how old
haven't
are your
played in a
kids?
while. I'm sorry.
How old are your kids?
4 and 1.
Okay, that's too young. Okay, all right.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But
But
the 4-year-old's getting close.
okay, yeah, you know what? I'll get back to that in a second. Let me just finish my thoughts about Risk.
Sure.
So the next game that everybody played is Risk, and Risk is a fun game. I love Risk. The problem with Risk is you're losing. You're playing a 4 hour game and you're losing for 3 hours. Like you know you're gonna lose, and you're just being a good sport. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like you know what I mean? Like Crenshaw's got like 3 quarters of the board, and I'm just getting smaller and smaller. And you just out of politeness, you don't want to be like, all right, I give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a new version of Risk called Risk 20 2222 or something like that, and it's set in the future, but it does something that fixes Risk for me. Is that you win the game when you have 4 points, and that's it. Well, either you're the only person standing, or you have 4 points.
Yeah.
And to get a point is you your capital is a point. So you have a capital city. You have like a little round disc that looks like a city. That's a so if I have so everybody starts with 1 point. So you just need three
Yeah.
more points. Keep in mind you could lose your point if you lose your city. But then I capture Crenshaw's. Now I have 2 points. Then I capture Dio's. Now I have 3 points. And then the other way to get points is you trade in cards. Now the problem with Risk is you trade in the 3 cards, then you get 10 armies. Then you trade in your second set, you get 12 armies. You trade in and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's the Monopoly problem. It just expands. It prolongs the game. But this
Yeah.
version is if you trade, you have to have 3 cards, and you trade it in, you get whatever 8 armies. But then it
Yeah.
goes back to zero. You know what I mean? Like the second
Yeah.
set is still the same, but if you have 4 cards, then it goes to 12. And if you have 5 cards, it goes. So you could sit there and build up cards, but then you go back to zero again. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the game doesn't have memory in the fact, oh, this is your fifth trade. You automatically get more. So I just think that's a great fix. So you could hold on to your cards for a dramatic. Okay, this is going to be my turn, and I'm going to sweep and get a bunch of points. But here's the other choice: you could trade in something like 5 cards for a point. So do you need the armies or do you need and that
Yeah.
choice? Oh my God, it is. And I say that to people before you play. This is the excruciating choice of modern Risk. And people are like, yeah, okay, but then they get it when they're playing, and they're like, oh my God, like, do I just get a point and then just or do I get the troops? Because if you get the
Yeah.
troops and you fail, you wasted your cards. You know what I mean? Or if you get the
Yeah.
troops
Right.
reinforcing borders, and then Dio comes in and just gets it's excruciating. I just think at this point, but then you don't have any armies, and then Crenshaw comes in and takes out my territories, and now it's so much fun. And to make it even more fun, I keep looking over there because they have it's called Risk Legacy. So it starts out it's regular Risk, but they added the new rules of you need 4 points to win.
Mhm.
But then Crenshaw wins the game. There's a sheet of stickers. He gets the winner gets this thing. Everybody else who still stayed in the game but didn't win gets this sheet of stickers. And then if anybody gets eliminated, there's a third set of stickers. So Crenshaw pulls off one of the stickers and puts it on the board. So every time you play, the board changes.
Oh, that's cool.
And and after 15 games, you know, you have a completely unique Risk board than anybody else on the planet.
Huh.
That's really
Nice.
cool.
Oh, it's really fun. And I such a crazy person that I will only play with the same 5 people because
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
holds 5 people. I want to play, but you can't get 5 people to commit to. So I have 2 copies. One copy with my game group that we don't play anymore. I haven't seen them in years, so that's just taking up space. And another copy that I play with my nieces and nephews, but they all went to college and then graduated and moved across
Yeah.
the. So I'm hoping that like some Christmas we could get together and play again.
Yeah.
And I now I have a game group here, but do I want to spend because I'm not going to continue 7 games out of 15 with somebody new. But it's so much fun.
I think the hardest part about getting into the board game thing for me is like I have no friends, so like finding with that in mind, like is maybe you could give suggestions for like a good starter for a guy and his wife.
Okay, there's a
like
plenty of good 2-player games. First off, there's solo version games now. There's games designed for only one person to play.
Mhm.
And I was dead set against it. I'm like, the whole purpose of board games is to sit with a buddy, have a cup of beers, shit talk each other, and eat Funyuns. You know what I mean? But during COVID, I realized, okay, I'm going to play some solo. There's a game called Nemo's War, which is my favorite solo game, but it is super complicated, and I wouldn't recommend it for a newbie. You're just going to get overwhelmed. But you could watch me play it, and I explain it. But there's a game called Final Girl, and I played it plenty of times on my channel. It's a solo-only game, and the premise is you're that last girl in a horror movie that survives. Like Jason, there's always that girl, whatever, Jamie Lee Curtis. So you're in a horror movie, and it's modular. So you could buy this monster, this setting, whatever, and mix and match. I buy the box sets because I'm a crazy person. It gives you all the extras and everything like that. But it's solo only, and it's so fun. And if you watch my video, you could learn how to play. You could pretty much learn how to play and lose because it's really tough. But for 2 people, like a wife, I'm looking over here. There's a game called Dice Throne that is there's a Marvel version and a generic fantasy version, and it's like Battle Yahtzee. It's just you and your wife sit facing each other, and you roll dice, and then you pick the dice that you want, and then you roll a second time, and trying to get like a combination of numbers. And that if you're Thor and you got this combination of numbers, you threw your hammer and hit your opponent in the face, and then your opponent rolls the dice to try to get a blocking combo, and then I'm simplifying it, but there's extra little steps, but it's really, and I think I played that one live. I mostly played solo because that's a game you can't play solo. But every game nowadays has a solo mode. I just played a game because we're comic book people called the Age of Comics, the Golden Age of Comics, and it's in your comic book company, and you're trying to make a comic book.
Oh, nice.
It's 2 of my obsessions just mushed together. And you can see I played that solo. That is really good.
I'll have to watch those streams. We have recently had 3 kids out of the 5 that are in the house move out.
Oh.
And we're beginning to realize, hey, we're going to have a lot of time on our hands here. We got one more who's just about to leave. The youngest will be with me forever, but and I'm there's only so much TV you can watch, and that kind of more interactive between the 2 of us, it might be something to look into.
And if you like the board games, because I went to I'm sorry, Dio. He asked me one question, and I'll talk for 2 hours.
No, don't be sorry. You're good.
DC Miller in the chat.
Yeah, DC's always he's like my cheerleader whenever I play the solo game. He's always there. He says he likes the sound of the dice. I think he's like drawing or whatever. DC,
oh yeah.
You're in a way different time zone than me, so I think he's working when I'm up late at night. But there's I went to a Dungeons and Dragons convention, the Gary Con in Wisconsin. It's named after Gary Gygax, and I was so excited to go. I took time off work and everything, and it was great. And I realized that playing like a 3-hour campaign using pre-made characters with complete strangers is excruciating. Oh my God, I just hated it. Everybody wants, because you're not going to level up. You're not going to play 13 hours. so you just want to do something cool, right? So everybody's talking over each. I just kind of just so after like 3 sessions, I wandered into the back room and there was just stacks and stacks of board games, and I found this game called Arkham Horror, and it's
Hmm.
Lovecraft. It's HP Love, and
Yeah,
I'm a love. I was like, well, what is this? And I was just looking at the rules, and somebody else like, oh, that's the greatest game ever. That's so good. So I went on Amazon while I was there, and I bought a copy. So when I went back home, it was at my house, and I was reading the rules, and oh my god, is it the most complicated board game ever? It is so freaking complicated. So I was getting frustrated. So my wife found out about Meetup. There's I don't know if you know Meetup, but it's nationwide. So Dio, are you in the States?
I am. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep thinking you're in Ireland, but you're not in Ireland. So it's
No, it's okay. Half Irish. Maybe that's why.
oh maybe yeah. So if you go to meetup.com, it's everything. So painting, board games, motorcycles, whatever, and you type in your what you're interested in, and you join, and odds are there like if you live near a big city, odds are there's a board game group. So I went and I played these two guys that it's called Alpha Gaming. They just tell you what to do. So I sat there and I was like, I'm not even playing. They're just picking up my pieces and literally moving my. So I was just frustrated. My wife was like, well, why don't you make your own meetup group?
yeah,
And I did. And that lasted for like 6 or 7 years. And, every Monday we would go and play games. We'd, go to a restaurant, eat some food, play games, drink. It was a blast. But COVID killed that. So now I moved out here and I play like just on the other side of the screen. There's a big board game table and everything. We play. But for your kids.
Here's a question real quick
Sure.
though. What is the possibility of this sort of setup and playing board games? Like, would that, if everyone had, Final Girl.
Oh, I see. Well, Final Girl's a solo only game. Like you
Okay,
can't play with two people because
okay,
you know what I mean. So that wouldn't work. But I've played board game. First off, there's a website called Tabletop Simulator, and it's got like 1 billion board games, and it looks like you're playing the board game. So you could just play with people. So Settlers of Catan,
Oh yeah, that.
Scrabble, you can play, and I think there's cameras so you can see their faces, so you can play this tabletop simulator, there's board game arena, I think, but there's a few online play, but I don't like that. I've played role-playing games like how we're doing this now through, and it was okay, but
Yeah.
I like the in-person stuff, I like coming over. Fortunately, like I started a meetup out here. And then it was like a bunch of people would show up, a couple of guys I couldn't stand, but the people I liked, I was like, hey, you want to come to my house? So I got Monday nights, I got one group. Tuesday nights, I got another group. And then, I'm happy. And then that's why I only stream Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Saturday, me and my wife usually do something,
Yeah.
And then Sunday is the only day of the week that I actually write comic books. I wake up, I do my Sunday comics thing in the morning, drink my coffee. And then, if my wife and I have to do some errand stuff, we do it. Then I just write comics until I go to bed. So really, one day a week. But you get a lot done in one day if you
If you sit down and do it.
Yeah. I'm not writing a monthly comic. I imagine if I was writing a monthly comic, I would have to do it every day. But
Yeah. You ever listen to I know you watch Chuck Dixon's show. You ever listen to him talk about how he's just writing just so much, and you're just like, wow. How do you do that?
Well, that's his job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got a 40-hour a week job. It takes me an hour and a half to get there, an hour and a half to get home. So that's 11 hours a day that I'm doing. Could you imagine if I just wrote for 11 hours a day? You know what I mean? How much?
Yeah. I suppose there's people out there who think, how does Levi get so much drywall done in a day? I'm like, hey,
Right. Yeah.
But,
Just think about what 11 hours a day, to do something. Well, not 11, because an hour for lunch.
Yeah.
I mean, a coffee break, a bathroom break. So we'll say 9 hours for really 9 hours a day. If I was just to write comics, I would be. But then, it's easy. I'm not gonna. It's easier for me to write a comic script than for somebody to draw a comic book.
Oh yeah.
Dio, you do the art also, right?
I do. Actually, it's funny. I for some reason the camera on my iPad doesn't face my face. Otherwise, you guys would be looking at my feet, which is not good for anybody. So I use the avatar, and I'm actually drawing and working on comics while we're chatting. So it's perfect. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do draw and I do write. Yep.
So how long would it take you to write like a regular comic, and then how long would it take you to draw that same comic?
The writing is definitely faster. I mean, editing and all that stuff. You know how it is. You go
Yeah.
over and you have to refix. I also talk my dialogue out, so I sound like a crazy person.
Yeah.
But the writing an issue maybe a couple of hours. Including editing and all that stuff, and then drawing a page and inking it. Probably about 8 hours. If depending on for my stuff, I do about 8 hours for a full price commission. I'll do 8 hours, but if it's a little bit cheaper of a commission, I tend to do it a little faster, not rush it by any means. I always want to make stuff look good. But I'll take probably about 5 hours, I think 5 or 6 hours on a page if it's a lower commission rate. Probably about 5 hours. Yeah, 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah. DC says he thought I was going to do some drywall videos. That's why he's here.
You did mention that.
Yeah, those are the paid tier. So yeah.
That's the premium content.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of writing comics and stuff, let's talk about what you got
I'll
coming
do
up.
drywall. I just bought a little repair kit because I
Nice.
put
Yeah,
the
there you
raw
go.
plugs in the wall, and then I completely forgot that wall over there is just laminated over the concrete.
Uh-huh.
So it's just sheetrock and then concrete. So that I put holes in the wall to hang up a poster and
Yeah.
original art, and it's not there's not enough meat on it to support it. I just put holes in my wall for enough, so I got to repair it. So if DC, if you stick with me, I got you drywall content.
Yeah. He's got it's a category. It's at the amateur drywall category.
Yeah. Things that you learn when you own a house,
Yeah, I had to fix my heater one time, but on my own. Save me. The guy told me a quote of $700, and it ended up costing me 25. So
Yeah, it's the
yeah,
same, dude. My
little.
AC, yeah, I
What
had
was
the same
that?
issue with the AC. It was gonna be like a $300-$400 fix. I ended up fixing it for $15. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? In a half an hour of my time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
little research on YouTube, and it's good to go.
Gotta
Yeah.
love it, man. YouTube is great.
YouTube is absolutely great for that kind of stuff. I'm a construction worker, so I could fix things, but like rewire the boiler, you got to go to YouTube and check that out. There's a couple of things that, YouTube saved me thousands of dollars to look up and how to do. Like when we bought the house, there's a beat up old fence. I got to replace the fence, but there was no gates, and it just bothered my wife that anybody could just look into our backyard. So on this side I just went and took a video of how to land a fence post and build that. And my wife she didn't mean to be discouraging. I'll give her that much, but she was just like, you know how to. But when she saw that I was done, her praise and like, oh my God, because in her mind this was an impossible task that nobody could possibly do it. You know what I mean? And then when she went over the top, oh my God, like she's taking pictures on Facebook. John built these gates.
That's nice. I got a 6-foot fence in my backyard. The problem is that the backyard that butts up to us has a dip, so it doesn't matter. I see straight into their windows anyways. Like what's the point of putting up a 6-foot fence if I could still I see them walking around and they see me. I hate it. I hate that they can see me.
Backyard, there's just it's just a big depression in the backyard. It's almost 50% of the backyard, and apparently, it's when they built this neighborhood, they cut down all the trees, and they dug a hole, and they throw all the trees into a pit, cover it, and then this house was built in 1968. Somewhere along those trees decayed,
Mm-hmm.
and so I want to build a deck out there, but I have to level the whole back here. So it's just so much freaking money,
Yeah.
And then, do I really want to stay in New York when I retire? It's so expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard you talking about trying to find the place that doesn't have taxes on your pension and
Yeah, yeah. I think there's
any, any
states in New
any
York.
luck with that?
I haven't really looked yet because I'm still a couple of years away from retiring. So
Yeah.
for my job, you have to be 20 years and 55 years old. So I'm 56. I am 20 years, but I don't think, like, if I was to retire now, I think I would take
Yeah.
such a bad hit that it wouldn't be
Mm.
worth it. And I got a nice position. I kind of like it. So yeah, maybe Idaho is okay for. I got to look up if Idaho is one of those states that.
It is. It does tax your. Yeah, it does tax your pension.
Yeah, I know. Nevada doesn't. Delaware, like all the ones that everybody's moving to. Florida,
Mhm.
I think Tennessee, but I think from
Yeah.
New Hampshire doesn't. I like the laws of New Hampshire. It's like the least restrictive state. But my wife dated somebody from New Hampshire, so she thinks the whole state is bad.
That's an interesting thing that happens, isn't it? My wife. There's a. I live in Boise proper. There's a town called Meridian. It's kind of nicer than Boise in certain aspects, and it's also cheaper. And she will not. She knows people who live there. We'll. It's like, you I
It's
mean,
the same thing with names. When my brothers and sisters are trying to name the kids, like, nah, I had an ex-girlfriend. There was a guy in
yeah,
college that I hated, or. What is that
yeah.
tattoo? Is that the
Oh, that one. Yeah, it's approved by the Comic Code Authority.
Comics Code Authority tattoo
Oh,
that you have? Approved by the Comics Code
am I
Authority. That's a
freezing?
great
No.
tattoo. I don't know if I froze
Yeah,
or you froze.
okay, I got how many? I got 5 or 6 tattoos, and half of them. So I got Usagi and the Turtles by Stamp Sakai here. I got a Paul Pope one here. Um, yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, and after that, I was like, man, it's an expensive hobby. I can't.
Yeah. I, I I don't have any tattoos. My wife doesn't have any tattoos. I'm not against them on you, but
Yeah, it took me. I was 42 before I got my first one. It just. It's like I know it's a big deal. Like I don't want to put something really stupid on myself. And then
well, at one point,
I settled on like stuff for about my kids. Like these are like my kids' birth flowers and stuff. So and then I
like
went to
I
comic books.
wanted to get on one arm all the superhero symbols, like the Fantastic
Mm.
Four, the Spider-Man, the Green Lantern, Superman, Batman, and just cover one arm with all superheroes, and then the spaces between, put like webbing and stuff like
Oh
that,
yeah,
Kirby Crackle and everything. And then this arm, I wanted to do all the bands that I liked, and I'm so glad I never did either.
yeah, yeah. When I was like younger, me and another guy that I knew were both into Smashing Pumpkins, and he ended up getting the little heart symbol that they have.
Yeah,
And when he did that, I was like, I'm not that into the
yeah,
Smashing
you're gonna
Pumpkins.
regret that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I don't know if he did. He was really into. I mean, he was
I wanted to
hardcore,
get
but
the Black Flag, the 4 bars.
mhm.
I that's still the most tempting for me, but I wanted to get like the Descendants that like, I don't know if you know that
The
punk
The
band.
Milo.
cartoon.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Milo cartoon, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I cannot stomach the Descendants anymore. Like, I played them, and I just, like, I sent a message to my friend Jimmy. Me and him, like, that was his thing, music and,
Hmm.
and punk and everything. Like, I got another friend that's comic books, but my comic book friend is not into punk, and my punk friend is not into comics. You know what I mean? So I have to, you
Mhm.
know. But I told him, he goes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like the Descendants, like I got so into them in like my late teens and early 20s, and it was just like, no wonder you guys could. All the songs about they couldn't get the chick. She likes this guy instead, and I'm like, that's because you're a bunch of whiny bitches. And now in my 50s, when I listen to the Descendants, I'm like, no wonder you didn't get any girls. Like, you walk up to these girls crying, and then the girls like you're a wuss. I'm gonna go with that guy over there who's cool. You know, so I'm walking. So if I'm walking around with a Descendants tattoo, it's like I would have to cover it up with something. You know.
I knew a guy who had. Have you seen Pearl Jam's like logo?
Uh, I,
Yeah, it's like that
It,
weird little guy.
it's like the worst stick figure drawing ever.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. I hate Pearl Jam, so yeah.
Yeah,
I
but even if they were a good band, that's the worst. Like, and he had this. It was easily like 6 inches on his calf. It was just gigantic. Like, man, that's even if you love the band, you got to admit
right.
that's an ugly thing.
To tell you the truth, the only tattoos that I'm tempted to get now are like the patriarch symbol,
Hmm.
my Mary Sue symbol, you know, things that I designed and came up with for my characters, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm glad that I didn't get any tattoos, but if I did, it would be my character's tattoos. You know, I
yeah.
don't have children, so this is the closest I'll ever get.
Yeah, with the tattoo thing, like I've got like uh, about 5 or 6 other comic things that I kind of want to do if I ever get the extra money. Like
You'll never have extra money, so
yeah, yeah.
either do it or
But
don't. Yeah,
yeah, and then but then I've taken to like designing my own tattoos. This one right there is my own, which I came up with like a series of never cool, always cool designs, and so just threw it on me. It's messed. The guy missed one line, and it drives me crazy every time I see it. I need to get in there and have him fix it, but
my favorite is these stories of people who get like Chinese or Japanese, and then it doesn't even say what they think it does.
yeah.
It's like, do not get a language that you can't read on your body.
Yeah. So we are about an hour in already. Is that right?
30
Yeah.
minutes.
30
30
minutes.
minutes. I don't know what. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong time. I'm looking up there. But we haven't even touched on your comics yet,
Yeah,
John. You got.
all you gotta do is say hello, and I'm just talking.
No worries, like because I do want to know more. I do want to learn more about the board games, but we
This is
want to.
what I wanted to say. I'll say one last thing about board games. I said I'll come back to this later, and I never did. If you got young kids, get cooperative games.
Oh, that makes sense. That way
Yeah,
we're not fighting against each other.
so
Exactly.
cooperative games are a big genre now. That it's you every player versus the game, and
Hmm.
I would recommend Marvel United. You know, because it's the comic book thing, so it's Marvel United. It's you used to be able to get it on Amazon for $15, but you got to get the Avengers base set or the X-Men base set because it gives you all the pieces and everything like that. And then there's like a player mat that I feel is invaluable to play. But you play that, and you guys, your Wolverine, he's Cyclops, you know, your Iceman versus Magneto, and Magneto is played by the cards in the game, and it's so good. You could probably, I don't know about your 1 year old, obviously, but you could play it with your 5 year old right now.
Is
You
that
know,
the one that's got the little figures and stuff you paint?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
You
I
can
was
check it
watching the
out on
videos.
my channel playlist, My Hand Solo, Marvel United. You can watch
Awesome.
me get defeated by Doctor Doom a million times, you know, because it's hard. You're gonna, you know, if cooperative games, you should lose more than you win. Otherwise, it's too easy. But that's
Yeah,
all I wanted to say about games. So there
That's
we go.
awesome.
yeah,
I will
yeah.
check it out.
I want to. We're right now the only game my wife and I are playing is a video game called Split Fiction.
How is that, man?
It's super fun. It really is. We've already run through it once, and now we're playing it a second time, so we could be the opposite character.
Nice. It's the same company that made that one game we talked about.
Yeah. What was that called?
Uh, it takes two.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's really fun. They're really smart. Like they really put that game together well. They had a lot of thought that went into that. But you play with your wife on video games, and you sit there and wait for her to get across the chasm.
Oh boy.
But it's fun. It's still fun. But yeah, so let's get into your what you got coming up, John.
Okay,
With your
so I have a comic book out already called Heroic Tales. Issue 1 came out. Uh, uh, it's originally the idea of the comic was it was going to be like every issue was going to showcase a different character from my world.
Yeah.
So issue 1, I was like, who would be the coolest, like most, character? So the Patriarch debuted in issue number 1, and he's like, I created the Patriarch as like a response to all these people like toxic masculinity. I'd rather be in the woods with the bear than a man, kind of thing, like all this negative man stuff. So I was just like, my dad was cool, my brothers are cool, my friends are cool, you know what I mean? Like, well, I don't know who these men are that are so horrible or whatever. You guys, so I wanted to make the manliest superhero I could, and he's the Patriarch. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a superhero. And it's not like he has secret affairs. What he wants to do is spend a day with his family. He's got 7 kids. He homesteads, meaning he has his own farm. They homeschool because, let's face it, in a world of supervillains, you can't have your children running around. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, I didn't do his origin yet, but unfortunately, he got his powers in public, so everybody knows who he is. He doesn't have a secret identity. So they keep his family away. He flies, whatever. But anyway, I wanted to make this, and issue 2 was going to be Mary Sue, but everybody was like, we like the Patriarch, and I'm like, you got to give the people what they want. Like, I was going to rotate characters out, and then I started to realize it's going to be years before I can even tell his origin if I do that. So issue 2 is going to have another Patriarch story, but it's going to so each Heroic Tales is going to have 2 stories. So the first comic had the Patriarch, and then it had the Suit, who's he becomes the mayor of the city. So it was his origin of the evil mayor. If you know anything about me, politicians are evil. So he's the evil mayor, and he's going to be like a Lex Luthor type, always behind the scenes. So issue 2 is going to have another Patriarch story, and I'm going to introduce Mary Sue. Now, if I do. And Mary Sue is the perfect girl. I don't know if you know the literary term of Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Could you bring up the covers? This cover is so good. So Mary Sue is a goof on. She's perfect. She's smart. She's rich. She's pretty, but perfect is a subjective term. She's perfect in the eyes of her little Chinese grandmother. So she's a good girl, meaning she doesn't drink, she doesn't fool around. She got good grades. She got her PhD when she's like 22 years old. She's got eight PhDs. She's a Mary Sue. She's perfect.
Yeah.
Sue is literally her last name. It's a Chinese name. Her family escaped Mao Zedong in the 50s. So her grandmother and grandfather escaped Mao Zedong. They came to America. They had their kids, first generation American. They opened up the old grandparents opened up a convenience store, like a little corner deli. The son turned it into a Sue Mart, which is like a Kmart type store. You know what I mean? So now Mary Sue is born, and she's super wealthy. She's pretty. She's smart. She's perfect. And she goes to school, and she's teased because she's not going to with the boys, and she's not going to drink, and she's not doing bong hits and everything like that. And she gets recruited by another one of my supervillains, is going to be Philip Manning. He's the bad businessman. So we got the bad politician, now we have the bad businessman, and he's wants superpowers. In a world with patriarchs and other characters, Captain Atlas and other superheroes, just being the richest guy is not enough. He wants to fly. He wants to shoot laser beams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's trying, and she doesn't realize. Well, she does realize. He tells her, "What am I talking about?" They're studying the nature of superpowers, and hijinks ensue, and she gets the powers, not Philip Manning. So that's what is her power? She's absolutely perfect. She could rearrange reality to make it perfect, but that has a consequence. And this is a complete story, but it's also a cliffhanger, if that makes sense. So issue 3 is going to have part 2 of Mary Sue, and then I'm going to introduce another character, which brings me to, if this comic does the same or better than issue 1, I'm going to put the Patriarch in his own comic. So there'll be nice. So issue 1 of the Patriarch will have his origin. It's just because issue 3 of Heroic Tales was going to have his origin. So issue 1 will have the origin of the Patriarch, a full story. So I had to expand it. So I'm rewriting the story because it was written for half a comic. Now it's going to be written for a full comic. So I'm adding more adventure and things like that. So I could talk forever about this. I got like 10 issues planned. Issue 4, oh my god, that's gonna be the breakout. Everybody's gonna be fighting over issue 4. That's my multiverse issue. That's how
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
explaining the multiverse. You know,
yeah.
a lot of
Um, I dig that idea though of kind of an
oh, we
introduction
lost Dio.
in.
I
Oh,
bored
we
Dio
lost
to
Dio.
death. I'm sorry, Dio.
Let's click that again. But kind of you introduce them in these ones, and then if they fund well enough and are popular enough, are you going to continue that with Mary Sue, say, and
The problem is, I want Renzo to draw everything,
yeah,
and there's only one Renzo. So Renzo, he's a smart guy. When we started working together, he was taking a lot of commitments. He doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. He doesn't know if I'm going to
hmm
pay. He doesn't know if the comic's going to do any good. He doesn't know if, okay, I got my one comic out. I'm done. I got it out of my system. You know what I mean? So now
yeah,
we've been talking for a while. We've been working together for over a year. He knows I pay instantly. There's never been a problem with things like that. So now he's been like, all right, let's go. Like he says he's going to, you know, production. I'm hoping we could do 2 or 3 issues a year instead of one a year.
yeah,
And then if we could do that, I'd like to do Patriarch comic and then a Heroic Tales. And since Heroic Tales is going to have 2 stories, I would like Renzo to do one of the 2 stories, and then every issue of Heroic Tales, like work with a new guy, work with a
yeah,
new artist. Like Dio, you want to do a story? Let's do a story.
That's
You know,
awesome.
you know what I mean? I was just talking to Luke Stone. His art and Call Sign Orion is not that it was ever bad, but it's just getting better and better. You know what I mean? I worked with
yeah,
Ron Mosicki in Heroic Tales #1. He just got a business, so he's just like, I got to work on my business. A store that he's working on. So I would love to hire him again. Talk about a cool guy and a professional. And oh my God, was he quick? Oh, that was awesome. And I also have another comic. I just realized I'll bring that up if you want to share that.
yeah.
Um, okay, I'm just gonna keep talking, filibustering
Yeah,
until.
this is your Love and Rockets and
Yeah. Okay.
Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of idea, right?
Yeah. Where? Okay. So this is the cover's not 100% finished. We're gonna do a corner box and everything like. Oh God, I have a Infinity Designer and it doesn't load right. Okay, there we go.
Hmm.
So this is my second comic. Now this one, I don't have any timeline for it. So this is Eddy is Doomed, and this is the tagline for this is Love and Rockets meets Crisis on Infinite Earths, and oh, that's not even the right cover. I just realized. Oh, sorry about that. That's not even the right
Oh, no
cover.
worries.
Where is the right cover? Oh, it's well, it looks like that. I can't find, but
Yeah,
that one doesn't have Eddy on it. But Eddy is
yeah,
a
yeah.
comic book fan who, spoiler alert, he works for Subart. So there's the tie-in with Heroic Tales. He works for Mary Sue's parents, but it's set in 1985, whereas the Mary Sue story set in 2024. So
Oh, yeah.
so he's an old man, in Mary Sue's time. But he's his father's a retired cop, and he wants to move to Florida, like all New Yorkers do when they retire. And how can he do this to Eddy? Now Eddy has to move out, and so he goes down to the comic book store and commiserates with the local comic book guy, his childhood friend. And then he sees this comic called The Doomed Earth, which is wiping out all the old continuity of top comics and making a new content. So his real world is crumbling and his comic book world is crumbling. And how could they
Yeah.
do this to poor Eddy? Don't they understand? Eddy,
Yeah.
they're ruining his childhood. So
Yeah,
that's
and the Oscars art, like what I'm seeing so far, it looks so good. I really, really dig his style.
yeah. Let me show you the first page. This is okay. This is the. Oh, okay. I just realized what I'm doing wrong. I'm showing the raw art. I got to show the letters. Okay. And this one isn't even the finished. What is? I got to update my file. But this is page 1. So could you see that? There we go.
Yeah,
That's
great
page
page.
1. Look at that. That
Yeah,
is so good.
that is a, and I like, if that was in a comic, back in the mid '80s, and the kid flipped it open that first page, he'd be in 100%.
Right. Well,
You know,
do you remember the old ROM comic? How the first page was an advertisement. That like they took
I'm
the first page of ROM
yeah,
Space
yeah.
Knight and used that as an advertisement. So that's the premise here. Is this is the first page of the Doomed Earth, but it's also an advertisement for the Doomed Earth. So Eddie is seeing this page in all of his comics, and he's like,
Yeah.
"What's going on? What is going on?"
Hmm.
That eyeball
So,
character. That's Big Brother, who sees everything, and this meteor crashes, and the Doom Keeper arises. So
yeah. How much input do you have with the design on these characters? Like, how involved are you on those?
okay, I will show you. Can if yeah, we'll keep talking. But I draw sketches
Yeah.
and I send them to Renzo and I send them to Oscar, and they laugh at my sketches. And then uh,
Like, I'm trying to write a couple things, and Dio's like, "Hey, let me have a crack at your character. Send me some info." And which, sorry, I have still not sent anything your way,
I've
Dio.
been waiting.
But um, I told him, like, I'm not super visual in my thinking. Like, my thinking is very word centric, you know, and so I have to try to work out a description, because I don't see it in my head, you know. So I'm wondering how much do you see, and how much you can input with them.
okay, I'm trying to get a character that wouldn't spoil something to show you. So like, do I have Mary Sue over here? Uh, okay, all right. So this is kind of funny. So I'll share this. This is my sketch of a character called Starlet, who has a uh, who has its cameo in Heroic Tales #2. Okay, so that's my Dio. Do you want to hire me to draw your comic instead of you?
And you know what? If it saves me some time, yes, you're hired.
So that's what I send to him. So see if I can
That's
make
not
it.
that bad, man.
It's not that good either, but like
No, but it has all the pertinent information that you would
right,
need to do the character. It's not just a stick figure. It definitely has all the stuff as somebody who's going to design something off of a prelim. I think it has everything there. So I think you're doing well, man.
so
Listen, they're interpreting it very well, so it says something about your vision. So
right, and then this is what Renzo turns it into. Where is it? I'm just scrolling it up. I should have realized I should have done a. So this is his sketch. He's going to finish the artwork, but so
I like when an artist says, "This is my sketch."
yeah. So this is Renzo's sketch of that same character, pretty much the same pose,
it's awesome.
and so this is going to be art for the trading card. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that is literally what I drew, except by a talented individual. You know what I mean? So I do the same thing with Oscar. The top 10 is the super team, because the imaginary comic book company in Eddie is doing is called Top Comics, and Top Comics isn't selling as well as Premier Comics, so they're going to take all their top characters and premierize them, just like DC did with Marvel. So
Mhm.
and so I drew them all out. It's funny because like a couple of characters, I was like, yeah, here they go, and Renzo Oscar was like, it's only 8. So I was like, oh man, I need 2 more. So I just because we were talking live, we'll do like a
Yeah.
video or whatever. So I was like, oh, I need two more characters. But I didn't draw them yet. So I said, the other two characters are named this. And he went, okay. And then the next day he drew them. You know what I mean? So he fully designed two characters, and all I did was give them a name and told them a little bit about their personality. You know what I mean? But then every character has two, because we're talking about Eddie is Doomed. There's the Golden Age version and the Silver Age version. And with DC, the Golden Age characters were a little bit more realistic, a little bit like, gritty and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the
Just
Silver
trousers.
Age were a little bit more wacky.
Yeah.
So he did all of the Silver Age version. I drew the Golden Age version. So, for Eddie is Doomed, it's a lot of Oscar's designs. For, not to be mean, because Renzo is awesome, but Heroic Tales is personal to me. I made up these characters like 20 years ago. You know what I mean? And I play a role-playing game, a superhero role-playing game. Like so these are all characters in my game. So, I've been drawing them to show the player my horrible sketches and things like that. So most of these are my designs, and then Renzo. But if we get the Netflix deal, Renzo's co-creator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we get $20 million, Renzo gets 10. I get 10, gets 10 because it wouldn't happen without him.
DC wants to know. DC wants to know, is those boots she's wearing or stockings?
Stocking boots that only superheroes wear. Like, she has boots that you'll see when Ren finishes it, but she's got the garter belts that turn into like boots that only super, and then her I can't give a. Instead of unstable molecules, all the superheroes wear proto matter. So it's proto matter. So it's matter, but not quite. So it blends and it responds. It responds to the individual wearing the costume. The Patriarch does not wear proto matter. That's a story plot. So Starlet is vain and beautiful. So of course all of her clothes morph into sexy and everything like that. So like there's a monstrous character that's clothes are always trying to hide his appearance. You know what I mean? So like if you get your costume shredded, it will heal. It will.
Is there a main architect of that proto matter costume?
When you first get your proto matter, it almost looks like an egg, and you open it up and it's cream, and you smear it all over yourself. And then
gotcha. And is there a creator, or is it some or is it like some otherworldly stuff, or is there somebody that creates?
I don't want to spoil that, but one guy discovered it, and he had flame powers. But the thing is, he burnt whenever he couldn't turn off his flame powers, and he was literally burning, but he wouldn't die, and he was in constant pain. So they were doping him up with morphine and everything, and then he became a drug addict and everything. But one of his powers was super intelligence, so he would just slowly, as a doped up super intelligent drug addict, burning to not burn. So they literally put him in like a diving bell filled with water. It was the only way to keep. So he that's all he wanted to do. He's fix his problem. So,
gotcha.
Like again, I don't want to give too much, but most of the super powers are problems. Like there's one guy who his name was Tundra, and he turns into like this glacial being full of ice. But the problem is he's freezing because he's an ice, so he's always gravitating towards heat sources. So like in a fight, if you were to light a bonfire, he would leave the fight and go stand next to the bonfire. A lot of the guys aren't immune to their own powers.
DC wants a 4-issue miniseries. It's Mary Proto Cream all over.
There you go. So one thing I learned is I got to sex it up a bit. So I sex it up a bit. Everybody will like issue 4, because issue 1 to 3 is it has to happen in that order for the big story to make sense.
All right. Well, got a little comic talk in, and usually we do about halfway through. We head into our big questions, but tonight we're going to switch it up just for the sake of John, who I know is a lifelong music lover.
Oh,
and we're going to do some
before we stop
music
comics,
questions.
let me just say that issue 2 is going live April 4th on Michael Bancroft's channel. So,
Awesome. All right.
so
Yeah.
the campaign will launch, and
And we'll make sure we get a reminder we'll remind everyone at the end of the show as well that so, but which I'm excited about. I want to get because I got the digital of issue 1. I want to get the physical catch up for both of them.
yeah,
So
I'm gonna have a tier where you can get issue 1 and 2. I'll probably have a tier where because I'm gonna have 2 versions of the comic. There's the Renzo. It's each comic is gonna have 2 covers. Like this is the only way you can describe it for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. So you get the comic book. It's gonna say the Patriarch. It's gonna have the Patriarch cover, and then when you flip it over, it's gonna say Mary Sue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's called a flip. So
yeah.
Because I don't want a back cover. I don't want nothing against Comics Wellspring, but I don't want to have the Comics Wellspring logo on my comic. I want to have my stuff on my comic.
Yeah.
So that's a good, elegant way to take care of that. So there's going to be 2 because I did like 5 versions of my first comic. It was really expensive.
Yeah.
And some of them didn't sell well because I kind of messed up. I learned a lot from my mistakes. So there's going to be 2. There's the Renzo version, and then there's the Josh Howard, and you flip it over, and it's Jose Garcia. Just 2 versions. You know, I'll have a tier where you can get both of them. I'll have a tier where you could get, issue 1, and then probably like a tier of all the copies.
All of it,
if you could bring up this picture that I got over here.
Oh yeah.
I sent
Twitter
it
today.
to Martina Marcoda. She did a comic called Lady Alchemy, and I said, if I send you a T-shirt, would you pose for me? She's like, oh yeah, absolutely. So everybody seems to be responding well to that. She looks just like Mary Sue, but she doesn't have the scar. But that's cool. She's beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't put a scar on her. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do like a variant cover photo of cosplay cover, but it's too late to add it onto this campaign.
Yeah.
I'm launching it.
I don't know. I'm thinking, some sort of centerfold.
Well, she mailed me actual photographs, so I'm going to put them in the letters page, things like that.
Oh, nice.
But I'm thinking of doing a cosplay cover. So I was like, you know what? Joe Sontag looks like, just like you look like the Patriarch. Joe Sontag looks like he even has the white beard in the right spot.
Yeah.
So I mailed him a T-shirt, and he's going to pose in Patriarch. So I'll make a cosplay variant. And then I got Matt Bauer, who is making a second printing for issue number 1, because I overprinted, but I'm hoping to sell out. So I might, when this is done, like when this closes, issue 2, I'll probably do like a catch-up tier, like second printing with the cosplay variant and stuff like that. So a card would be cool. A card would be cool.
All right, let's we're gonna get into these little questions. So I'm gonna call this segment "Life Needs a Soundtrack." And at some point, I'm gonna have a little musical thing that goes with this. It's gonna be.
You got to be careful with music, because
what's that?
You got to be careful when you put music, because YouTube is very sensitive about music.
Oh, it'll whatever music I'm gonna put on, I'm working on it myself.
Oh, there you go, perfect.
I've started, and it's corny as hell, but I like that.
I can't wait to hear it.
That's perfect.
I want this whole thing. I was watching someone else's stream, and they have a intro theme song, and you could just tell it was written by AI. And I'm like, I don't. It's too perfect. It's too good. I don't want that. I want this to be DIY. I want this to feel that way.
What Geeks Do Network, he made my intro, John's Long Box, and it's like nice and funky. I freaking love that. If I find out that was AI, I'd be a little disappointed. I'd like to think that him and his wife were just in the basement rocking out.
But I coined the term for my ghetto setup yesterday, my get up. So it involves this as well. This is what we're going to be playing with.
Okay.
A little wheel to spin for a choice of our music questions. These are not trivia. These are lifestyle kind of music questions. And we landed on Happy Time song. What is your go-to happy time song? Like when you're in a super good mood, what is the song you're gonna stick on first? And
Is
this
it
is
is it the
open for
DON
anyone.
or so a happy time song? Gee, uh this different eras.
Yeah.
The 18-year-old John, it's definitely like punk, like the Clash's whole second album. Like I always think like there's just like a couple of records that
Yeah.
just imagine it's the late 70s, early 80s, and Deep Purple, and no offense to Pink Floyd and stuff like that is all on the radio, and you get Clash, give them enough rope, and you got the turntable, and you put the vinyl down, and you just drop the needle, and the very first thing is it's just a drum smash, and then Safe European Home start. It's just I challenge you to just put that record on, especially if you know nothing about it, and just
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like a shot to the face. The only other experience is just imagine it's 1967, and your parents are listening to Glenn Miller, and again, I love Glenn Miller and all that stuff too.
Mhm.
You're listening to, and you get the first Led Zeppelin album on, and you're just like, my friends said this was good. You drop the needle, and it's good times, bad times just comes on, you know. So yeah, I'd say like if I'm in a good mood, it's like the first two Clash albums. People are gonna laugh, but Sex Pistols' "Nevermind the Bollocks" is one of the most
Yeah.
perfect albums ever recorded. It's so good, and almost I like the Beatles, but I realize I can't stand the early Beatles.
Mhm.
Like like
Where they're doing a lot of covers of
yeah,
already existing things and yeah.
yeah, like I but like I like Paperback Writer and stuff like that is awesome. But like I love later Beatles, uh, like the first three Jimi Hendrix albums. I can't stand when Jimi Hendrix gets bluesy. I like his more experimental, but those are just so good, just so good. And then lately, so I just like early punk rock, later like more classic rock, but now I'm like listening to like jazzy stuff. Like uh, I discovered the Average White Band. Like
Oh
band,
yeah.
like Cut the Cake. Oh my god, you put that on. Sly and the Family Stone is such good happy music. But yeah, there's so much. And then at work, I kind of like to have a little energy. So like I discovered a band called Freedom Hawk. Just good metal, and and the Melvins. I'm
Oh
56
yeah.
year old man blasting the Melvins at work all day long.
What you
So
got,
they
Dio? You got a favorite song that you or an album you hit when you're just in a good mood?
uh, a happy song.
Well, it's not a happy song. It's when you're happy. What's the album or song that you'll stick on?
Oh,
You're in a good mood and you're like, I gotta hear. I gotta keep this mood going.
oh yeah. It's there's a bunch of different moods that I have for stuff, obviously. But I'm trying to. I mean, if there's a song, you ever hear of Flight Facilities?
Mm-mm.
It's like some dancey stuff, but there's a song called Crave You that I really dig. You should look it up. It's
Yeah.
Flight Facilities Crave You. It's like a happy song. But like album wise, maybe Shabu Shaba by NXS, uh, which is an older one. It's a good one. DMX.
Which album?
I mean, pretty much I just put like on a playlist and just play some DMX, and it makes you want to
Yeah,
flip a
yeah,
table over.
yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. As soon as that like pops off, dude, my kid goes crazy too. But I, I mean, music in general just makes me happy.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, obviously, the punk rock stuff, but there's just a wide variety of stuff from new wave to punk rock to hardcore to dancey stuff. So, I mean, for me, it's just music in general, man. I love it.
yeah.
It's a big part of my life. Jewel, she couldn't even name like a band or a song. And I think it's because her mother always like asked her to play music when she was younger, so it like almost turned off that aspect of her life. So she likes music,
Yeah, yeah,
but she's not like if you asked her who her favorite, she'd be like, I
yeah.
she doesn't listen to music. It's sort of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I mean, it's just music in general, man. I know it's a vague answer, but
No, yeah, no,
especially when
I think it's a lot of people's kind of answer is, sometimes the mood the music I want to hear when I'm in a bad mood is also the same exact music I want to hear when I'm in a good mood.
exactly, yeah,
But
for
like
sure.
for me, one of the ones that always really kind of picks up my mood, I guess, almost in a way, is anything by Goldfinger.
Okay, I mean that makes
Like
sense. It's it's steppy.
they yeah, it's a very, poppy ska, just super upbeat. Every song is upbeat. I don't think they have a slow song on any of their albums, but
Saying that Operation Ivy is definitely I still listen to those guys
I was just listening to
like I was.
Operation Ivy today.
Oh, did yeah?
yeah,
I still listen to them all the time. I still have. I don't have the tape anymore, but I have the CD that I've had for decades now. That I still listen to, and that every song on that they've ever written just is a happy. I mean, for me, gives me a
yeah,
happy energy. So yeah,
It's
Op
funny that
Ivy
you
still
said
the
that
shit.
because at one point I was just burnt out and I wasn't listening to anything. And a friend of mine was like, "Oh, I'm trying." This was like 2000 or so. So I think
Mm.
I was a little late to the boat for Operation Ivy. I think they already broke up at that point. But he
Yeah,
was like, "Hey, listen to this." And Operation. The first song was a sound system gonna take me back. Oh right, that.
something that I can depend on. Try
I
to
was like,
describe the
oh,
best way to my ability. Yeah,
it was so good. It's so I love ska. You know,
yeah,
and you know, I dated a girl in the early '90s. She was from Trinidad, Tobago, and her family was Trinidad, Tobago, and Jamaica. So she introduced me to all that early first wave Jamaican ska.
yeah,
hmm
I challenge you to listen to in a bad mood. You know,
yeah,
like the Scotalites and Desmond Decker and all that
yeah,
stuff.
yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh
That's great
yeah.
stuff for sure.
yeah.
Another answer is tied into that. It's the Mephistopheles.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
They're one in particular, either their Bumblebee Tuna song
my
or
baloney. Yeah, my it's Satan. My baloney has a second
yeah.
name. It's
And then there's
Tan.
another one that's called Doomsday, and it's about the end of the world, but it's super upbeat.
Yeah, the
All
joke with
right.
the Mephistopheles is they're the world's first satanic ska band.
All right, we're spinning again. Let's
Okay.
see what the next one comes up with. We got to stop, and we got guilty pleasure song. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't believe in guilty pleasure songs," but in my head, it's the song where you've pulled up to the stoplight and you were blasting the song 10 seconds ago, but you pull up to the stoplight and you're like, I don't know. I want people to know. And you kind of turn it down just a little bit. Yeah. Do you have one of those?
I always call this band my guilty pleasure band, but I don't believe in guilty pleasures.
Hmm.
Like I always said, Fem Force is my guilty pleasure comic book because it's just a comic book about big boob
Yeah.
chicks.
Yeah.
If you like it, you like it. Commit
Yeah.
to the. But the Smiths, I always
Oh,
say that they're like the gayest band that I love.
still love them.
I love the Smiths, and like I like the Melvins and punk rock and some of the heaviest music going and everything and fast and angry. And then me and my friends, we used to joke around like when is like this the ultimate Smith song would be like Morrissey going, I'd like to buy a dress, but I don't know what size I am. You know, but I love the Smiths. He's got a terrible voice, but it's great.
No, he's got a great voice. You're
No.
tripping.
Unique. I'll give you that. He's got a unique voice.
Which in itself, is it makes it great, because so
Right,
many
right.
people sound alike that it's sort of nice to have something that is unique to itself. I mean, who has a terrible voice was God rest his soul, Joy Division.
Oh yeah, Joy Division is an acquired taste, and
It is.
I bought their albums because you should have them if you're you know if you're a music guy, you should have the Joy Division. But I never listened to them, and then finally one day I'm like, all right, these are good. I like Nick Cave. I think Nick Cave is kind of hard to get into. You
Mhm.
can't just put on a Nick Cave album to a newbie, and my
I
my
mean,
wife she calls him that satanic guy, but he's a nice guy. His songs are pretty, this
Yeah,
this
the guys with the weird voices, one of my favorite bands is Pavement, and he
is a name
can't
I
sing,
haven't heard in a long time.
you know, but he can't, he's not a singer, but I can't hear anyone else singing those songs and have that same feeling.
Right.
But I got my guilty pleasure song. Uh, so it's not so much that I like some country. I like a little bit of country here and there. But there's a particular song by Dwight Yoakam.
Okay, Dwight Yoakam's great.
He's
Yeah,
cool.
he is
He's
great.
cool when it comes to country.
But the problem with the song is it has a very um, banda Mexican oompa loompa sound, oompa doompa doompa, and being half Mexican, working in construction, like I I have heard that banda stuff my whole life. I don't like it. I don't like it. And so,
I
but I
didn't
love
know
that
about
song.
that. I didn't know about that stuff until I moved to Albuquerque.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, and they had a Mexican music station, like an MTV type thing,
Hmm.
and you know, as the hipsters say, we would watch it ironically at first, and then after a while, we're like, this is awesome. Like we went from like, we're gonna watch this, like and then like people come in, we change the channel, and now it's just like, F you, man, we like this. There was a Mexican band called Sparks, and they were like the Mexican Spice Girls. Each one of these girls was just imagine like 4 variations of Monica Bellucci singing songs. Like,
Yeah,
Okay.
how can you not want to watch that?
You got my attention.
SPARX. And then
Google.
there was another called Priscilla and the something bullets, maybe the silver bullets. And she was like the version. She was like a what's it? Britney Spears from Mexico. And she had the cowboy hat and she played the accordion.
yeah.
And at first we were laughing. She had braces and everything like that. Like, look at this. And then we're like, freaking great. And every song was, and she do the same dance. I wonder where she is.
Yeah, it's the I've been I've been doing research because the story I'm trying to write is Aztec mythology centric, and so I've been getting into more and more into my ancestral heritage,
Oh,
as it
cool.
were, and there are a ton of really great bands out of Mexico, like
Yeah.
really good stuff,
Los
but
Explosivos. You ever listen to them?
uh,
They're a 3-chord punk band. The Los, I don't know what this. It's all Mexican. No
yeah,
English, and it's freaking awesome.
But like I said, I work in most of the guys I work with. I guess the correct term is norteño. It's like the northern part of Mexico, and it's basically the country of Mexico, the country music of Mexico, and that's all they like 100% of what they like. I'll put on stuff that I've heard, I've searched and like, oh, this is a really cool song, and they're like, we don't like this. This is lame. Let's put on this again. I'm like, but yeah, there's a Dwight Yoakam song that has the exact same like do thing, and I pull, if I just like, oh, I'll listen to it when
Don't
I'm
be
alone.
bad, man. Don't be bad. You like it. It's funny that you said you were working on because I've been talking with Renzo and Oscar. They both live in Mexico because I've
Mhm.
been having I have this fascination with slums. Like
Mhm.
so I wanted to make like a character, like a daredevil guy who comes out of the slum and tries to save the slums. So I was researching slums and I found out that Brazil and Mexico have the 2 biggest Ciudad Nezga in Mexico City. And
Mhm.
Renzo was just like, yeah, that's bad. You don't go there. And Oscar was like, yeah, that's bad. You don't go. So I have an idea of like a luchador kind of guy. But
Oh
I'm
yeah.
fully aware that I'm a white guy, grew up in this white neighborhood. So like, but I was telling Renzo and Oscar I would like to do the comic in Spanish, like
Oh yeah.
heroic tales, like an 8-page story, like. But you can figure it out, through
Mhm.
storytelling what they're saying. So it's not going to be long soliloquies
Yeah.
of, and I would like it to, because just tying it into like the Aztecs, all the human sacrifice, pulling out people's hearts and everything like
Yeah.
that. I'm like, where did all that blood go? Like, and then they say like people are born and die in and Ciudad Nezca, and there's no records, there's no birth certificates, there's nothing. That's why I wanted it to be Mexico rather than New York. Even if you're born in a slum, you still have a birth certificate.
Yeah.
So I was like, these people, like these ciphers, like, are they just vampire food? Like these Aztecs, what were they sacrificed? Like that would be perfect. That there's
Yeah.
vampires living, just like that movie
Dusk Till Dawn.
Dust Till Dawn. So I was thinking, what if this like guy just got fed up? Like I was thinking like he was pressed gang into a gang, and then all of a sudden he had a change of heart. He puts on a mask because he's got he's like avenging his family, whatever, and then he's fighting his way to the crime lords and the drug lords and the cartels, and he finds out that it's ruled by vampires.
Yeah.
But I'm fully aware that I need authentic Mexican help to pull off this story.
Yeah, I've got, like I said, I got part of it in my background, but I've actually want to talk to Renzo and Oscar and Jose Garcia,
Yeah,
who lives in Mexico. My story takes place in Mexico City.
yeah. This would take place in Mexico City in that
Yeah, yeah.
in that band.
And I know that Jose lives in Mexico. I just want to ask questions like, if I have something taking place, is this right?
Yeah, the names that I was giving, Oscar kept saying that's too gringo. I think that's not a, like I was thinking like this, like I wanted him to be called the Saint, and he's like, he shows me videos. He's like, for 50 years there was Mexican shows called the Saint.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know this. That's why I'm talking to you.
Yeah, yeah.
But for talking about comic books again for a music question.
Now let's get back to it. Then we'll do
Sure,
one more spin.
sure. I'm sorry. I'll derail your channel.
No, it's no worries, no worries. All right, we got one last spin, and it landed on the song that reminds you the most of your childhood.
It's got to be Louis Prima.
Which one?
Just
I love Louis Prima, by the way.
Louis Prima was a big band. He had the Louis Prima band.
Yeah.
Louis Prima and the Witnesses, and it's funny because it was Louis Prima and the Witnesses, then Louis Prima with Sam Katera playing the trumpet, and Keely Smith was the female singer, and the Witnesses, and they were like goofy, like everybody knows that song. I want to be like you from Jungle Book. I want to walk like you talk. That's Louis Prima doing the voice of King Louis.
Yeah, and everyone knows the David Lee Roth cover of what was it?
Gigolo, and everywhere
Gigolo,
I go. Yeah, that's Louis Prima. But that song just seemed like every Saturday while my parents were cooking, like it just seemed like Louis Prima was playing. He was, my father's was Italian. Louis Prima was Italian, although Louis Prima was Italian from New Orleans, so he had that swing influence in his music. And like when you listen to like all the big bands, they were serious musicians. They studied the classics, and and they were awesome. All of them were. But then Louis Prima had that, but he also had this New Orleans jazz influence, and he would encourage the band members to like get up. And like they would, as they're playing, they would walk into the audience and stuff. So that's why King Louis, all the apes was his the band members. That's why they're going around banging, and because that's the way it was to see a Louis Prima.
The wildest is that what they?
I just think that's. But I just remember so many times my parents stirring the sauce, playing Louis Prima and stuff. So
Marie.
yeah, that
Marie. Yeah, I love Louis Prima. Like I don't know what got me into him. Actually, no, I do. I lived in Lake Tahoe for half a year, and I know he played at Tahoe a lot.
Oh yeah,
at the casino there, and for whatever reason, it just kind of got me interested, and I started listening to his stuff. And
hey, Benjamin's here. Benjamin, I'm drinking out of your mug. How you doing, Benjamin?
We got some. Shuba is really good. Shuba.
Oh yeah, Shuba for sure. DC.
The Smiths were the best. I have a Johnny Marcy. Oh, nice. Ian Curtis.
Thank you. I was drawing a blank.
And Yep, Benjamin fellow nerds.
My
Great job.
Louis
So.
Prima story is my father had this record with Louis Prima's face on it, you know, and I didn't.
Mhm.
I saw that record all the time when I was a kid. You know, hated that record. That record just like symbolized bad music to me as a kid. And then I moved to Albuquerque. I'm in college, and I made friends with the guys who owned the record store. So there was a cool record store. You know me. I walk in, I start talking to everybody. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Oh, the guy from I'm talking to them about music. Hey, you want to come to a barbecue? So I'm at the guy who runs the bar. You know, he's the guy who owns the record store, cool record store, and I'm in the barbecue and they're cooking, and they're playing this music and everybody's bopping around, and I'm like, this is great. Who is it? Like Louis Prima? I'm like, oh, Louis Prima. You know, I never heard the name before. And I'm like, oh, so I go to the record store the next day. The guy's like, yeah, this is the record. And he pulls out that record that I made fun of in my father's record. I was like, the circle is now complete. I'm now my father. I'm buying a Louis Prima record.
Yeah, now I'm hearing in my head is different Louis Print. Baby, baby, it looks like it's gonna hail. So I gotta go listen to
But
some.
my favorite Louis Prima song is "Hey Girl." Hey
Yep,
girl. Da, 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 da.
yep, that's a good one too. Dio, what about you? You got a childhood memory song?
You know, not really. I did a lot of hallucinogenics growing up, so my my idea of time is all mixed up. But I mean, yeah, not really. There's nothing that I'm not.
I got one.
No,
I don't care who
there's a
you
lot of
are.
fun.
When you hear Linus and Lucy from Peanuts from the Christmas, if you don't become a kid, then you didn't grow up in
Yeah.
America.
I watched that stuff as a kid, but it wasn't enough horror for me. The pumpkin patch and all that. So, I was really watching like some, not crazy stuff, but I was watching that stuff. Doesn't really. There's nothing I could really say that. There's albums and stuff that make me think about being a kid. Black Celebration, sitting in my bedroom, smoking cigarettes out the window as like a 12-year-old or even 11-year-old with my headsets on. I mean, there's not one particular song that I can say brings me back to my youth, but there's bands, like Depeche Mode, Front
Friday the 13th
242.
theme.
What's that?
Friday the 13th theme.
Yeah, that. No, that's right. I was doing the Halloween. The Friday 13th should be. No, just a lot of new wave stuff I was listening to as a kid.
Oh man,
Brings me back to that stuff, but there's not like there's not a single song. Afternoon Delight. There we go. Yeah, there's not one particular song that brings me back to my youth, as there is not like one song, but
how old are you, Dio?
album wise, Depeche Mode, New Order, In Excess, Front 242, Alien, Sex Fiend, stuff like that. That maybe is
Yeah.
not, uh, yeah, nothing other than just like hearing something I haven't heard in a while. But no song that takes me back to the day when I had hair and a bright future in front of me.
John wanted to know how old you were, Dio.
How old I am? Oh, I'm 48.
Okay, so you're about 10 years younger than me. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Did you just have a birthday, Dio?
November 13th is my birthday.
All right. So, man, I thought I was a little closer to you. You still got a year on me. So,
Yeah, you're coming up though, aren't you?
yeah. Next 2 months. So.
2 months. Yeah, it's crazy.
Will I be 48? I will be. Oh my
Yes, you will.
gosh. Yeah.
Yep.
Huh.
so
One thing
listen,
what's that?
I've been 56 now for 2 years because I lost my birthday. So last year I've been saying I was 56, but this year I'm actually 56. And that also happened when I was 24. I was 24 for 2 years because
Some sort of hobbit timing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, so yeah, I've got one that's for whatever reason, it just reminds me of when I lived in Mesa, Arizona. It's like 120 degrees out, but when you're a little kid, those things don't register.
Right. Yeah.
And me and my brother were out on the sidewalk playing, and for whatever reason, I Can Dream About You
Oh,
by
yeah. I
Dream
can dream about you.
Dan Hartman, I think was his name. Um, Yeah, but like that one really just like as soon as I hear that song, I just like I'm back on the
Oh,
sidewalk playing GI Joes.
That's awesome.
now I can't think of his name. That's gonna drive me nuts. Gordon Lightfoot. That song, "Sundown." You better take that if you.
Yeah,
I hear that song and I'm a little kid in the woods when we were camping.
that's
Nice.
awesome.
You
Yeah.
know, instantly that song is just instant childhood for me. And
Yeah.
here's a comic book and music question for both of you guys. Are any of
Mhm.
your stories inspired by songs or characters or anything like that?
Uh, I wouldn't say. Oh, there's a New Order song that definitely started a scene in the issue. What is it? Issue 5 that's coming up. Um, that inspired a scene. But a lot of my issues are named after songs just because of certain things that happen, and it's like, oh shit, that correlates to this. Like the second issue is named after a Lagwagon song called "Bye for Now" off of Trashed. The third issue's named "Dine Alone" after a Quicksand song from I don't know what album it was, Manic Compression. Or is it no? Was it Manic Compression or the one before? Anyway, yeah, it's named after a Quicksand song. But yeah, there's nothing that's I wouldn't say it's other than issue 5, the scene that comes up that's that the New Order song sort of initiated a scene. Nothing else, but everything's named after it because it relates back to it. When I read the issue, I'm like, oh shit, this is. It makes sense that it at least connects with maybe a title more so than the actual content of the song.
I have a lot of music inspired stuff in my. Well, I only have one comic, but I have a bunch of scripts written out. But I wanted to write a horror movie, so it's called Sundown, and it's a vampire horror story, and it's Gordon Lightfoot song, and like I always picture like the credits would come up to that music,
Yeah.
and if you think about it in a different way, it could be a very scary song. Like the song is about his girlfriend sneaking out and going out with other guys, but it's like if you're in the back
That's
room
scary
with
too.
you won't confess. Like I have this opening image where all of a sudden the door opens and there's a woman brushing the hair on a corpse. You know,
Yeah.
it just turns that song into a horror song. That's
You
a
know what? I'm gonna add that to my spinning wheel. What song would you have as the closing credit song on your, the movie made of your comic? That'll
oh
be what I'm adding to the wheel.
okay. In Heroic Tales #1, there's a character called the Suit, and he's the mayor of Science City, and he he's going to wear pins that say "Future Now." That's his political slogan.
Mhm.
The future is now. Is his, but that's a song by the MC5.
Oh,
It's about corrupt politicians. It's like so on the nose. If you ever listen to
yeah.
the song, you're like, oh, he's the bad. But it's just like I wanted to make a trailer for that song. Two Heroic Tales, two Future Now, but
Yeah.
you can't get the rights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it would have just screwed everything up. So I'm happy
I
with the trailer that Kyle Prometheus made.
Yeah, the only things I've actually finished writing of the two I've done, one of them was a little 8-page short, and it's about basically a post-apocalyptic future where one guy has music, like he's the only guy that has music, and it came about because of a guy that I work with was talking about he has do you remember Zunes, the Microsoft iPads?
Yeah,
Which I think were better than the iPads. That's just my opinion. But he still has one. He says it's got 64,000 songs or something ridiculous on it. And he goes out boating with his buddies out in the middle of nowhere, and he's the only one who has the music because they don't get signals on their phones. And I
That's
was
funny.
like, that's a cool idea for a story, but the only guy that has music. But so
I
it
have.
kind of it was also kind of inspired by just the that feeling you get from certain songs. For me, it was in particular Mayonnaise from Smashing Pumpkins.
Good song.
and just the rise of the guitar at the beginning, and it just hits a level that just hits your spirit, and you're like, okay, I'm on something new here. I'm no longer on this plane of existence.
Right.
You know, and so I have a concept for the end of the story that I want like six to seven different endings where at the end he's listening to an album, but it's a different album. So if someone opens reads the last page, it's a different album he's listening to. But that's one of them is the Pumpkins.
It's a good
I,
idea.
I wish I had more space in my comics because the patriarch has 7 kids, and
Yeah.
like they homeschool because you'll see why in issue 4 of or issue 2 of the patriarch if I do that. But he's got 7 kids, and one of the things that they do is they all play instruments. They homeschool, so the mother actually plays drums, and all the kids play different instruments. So
It's like the Partridge Family.
yeah, and in part of their curriculum, every Friday they play a song. So they'll rehearse it all, and then Friday they'll play it, and every kid takes a turn. So I was thinking of doing that, like which song would be each kid. So I'm trying to like come up with their personalities. Like one of the kids likes jazz, one of the kids like is the heavy, but they all like everything. But when you get to pick, and then the youngest boy, when he's gonna find out that he's gonna be wearing a cape and he's running around, like in the background you'll see him jumping off of the table, but he's going to find out that the superpowers aren't transmitted through genes. Like there's a way to get superpowers, and he wasn't, so he's never going to get them. Like the patriarch's children aren't superpowered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so he's going to be 14 years old and bitter, and he's going to he's a little kid now, but in the future he's going to start a punk rock band called the Puny Mortals. So I do want there to be music. Like issue 1 of the patriarch, the opening villain that he fights is named after a David Bowie song. I'll leave it to when the comic comes out, you'll be like, oh yeah, there is a David Bowie song, but she's totally inspired by a David Bowie song. When they talk about their past, Marissa, the patriarch's wife, she was this hottie that was way out of his league. When you see what the patriarch looked like before he got his powers, he was this little scrawny guy with a goatee, but he was always a naive kid, and he was totally into punk rock, and Marissa was into like more new wave. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, the punk rockers and the new wavers did not get along. Like it was almost like the Sharks and the Jets. You know what I mean? Like so she didn't like him because that was like what the troublemakers listened to, and he was, but they bonded over David Bowie. They both like David Bowie, so that's like a thing in the patriarch's family is like, like if you see records, you're going to see a David Bowie record out because that's everybody likes Bowie. If you're into metal, if you're into jazz, if you're into classic rock, new wave.
My intro to David Bowie was a comic book. It was Mike Allred's Red Rocket 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember not listening to David Bowie. I got older brothers and sisters that they had, growing up exposed to records.
Yeah, I mean, I knew of David Bowie, but it was the dancing in the street Bowie.
Yeah.
And not the Ziggy Stardust Bowie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That kind of, when you're a little kid, you're watching Bowie and Mick Jagger dance around, and you're like, not so much.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. I was like, this is kind of bad.
Have you ever seen the Without?
Mandela's did that originally. They should have. Should have let him stay.
Have you ever seen the Without Music version of the video?
Appreciate it. Rolling Stones were a band that I never liked. I grew up hating the Rolling because my 2 older brothers were into the Rolling Stones, and I guess you kind of rebelled. That's why I got into punk rock. Nobody else in my family was punk, so that was my thing. And when I became a construction worker, what you do is you put on, like, if you want to listen to music. Nowadays we don't even do it, but back then you put on what everybody would want to listen to, and that was like CBS 101. It was classic rock or whatever, and like bands that I just couldn't stand were like I still can't stand Bruce Springsteen. I still can't stand. I know I catch hell when I say this, but I can't stand Pink Floyd. I and
Credence.
I love Creedence Clearwater
Do
Revival.
you?
Yeah, you still like him. I'm not going to get mad. I'm not one of the. But Rolling Stones would come on, and I'm like, how many times can I listen to Satisfaction and Sympathy for the Devil?
Mhm.
But I got to say, I grew to love them. Like right now, my favorite Stones album is Her Majesty's Secret, Her Majesty's Satanic Requests. It's songs that never make the radio.
Yeah. I think that's the problem with it, is that it's not that you hate classic rock or those bands. You hate those songs you've heard
Right. I
10
hate
million
those 6
times.
songs that you play. Like the Who have
Yeah.
so many good albums. I don't want to hear Won't Get Fooled Again.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
tired
I,
of
I
that.
recently Ted Nugent's terrible Cat Scratch Fever. I've heard that a million times. I've never heard what's the song I recently discovered from him. Uh, Now I can't remember what it's called, but it's a rad song. It's a really cool song, and
Awesome.
so it's like, yeah, okay. Well, it's not him. It's that song, and the overplaying of it. But all right. Well, I don't know how enjoyable that segment was, but we'll try it again at
That
some
was
point
fun. I
and see how
enjoyed
it
it.
goes.
It was fun. Yeah, it was good.
I enjoyed
Good,
it. It was
good.
fun.
But
There's only so many times you're like, so what inspired Heroic Tales?
yeah,
Tell me about
yeah,
your
but
love of Kirby. I can talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
that, but it's good to talk about. I mean,
Yeah, and it's another, it's just another avenue to get to know
do you guys
the
play
guys.
instruments?
I 20 years ago, I picked up a guitar and started playing it, and me and a couple buddies started a little band. But my friend was really good, really quick at the guitar, and I'm like, I'll write the songs and sing, and then had kids and all that stuff, and it just fell away.
Dio, can you
But
play?
I learned how to play. I can hold a beat on the drums when I was homeless. I was living in my band's warehouse, so I'd always practice on the drums. But I'm not. I mean, I'm not a drummer by any means. But I used to sing and write songs, write lyrics, in a couple of punk rock bands. But no instruments.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
about you,
that's
John?
I can't play anything. I can't play anything. I love to listen to music. I'm always like humming, and like if I'm out working, sometimes you can't listen to earbuds. So I try to make myself come up with like, I'm gonna try to come up with a catchy tune, and maybe I'll.
yeah.
But it's like the same 4 tunes that I make, and they're like very simple. So I don't know. I don't think I have any musical talent.
Yeah. Um, now I forgot what I was going to say. No, my dad, he has an uncanny ability to come up with little melodies. They're all like in that early Beatles kind of mode, where it's just kind of poppy, love songs. But he can just, if we'd go on walks when I was a kid, and he would start just humming songs, and I'm like, this is a really catchy song. Every once in a while, as I learned when I grew older, he was actually just singing songs that actually exist and I thought he made up. Like the first time I ever watched the movie Oklahoma, and it started off with "Oh, what a beautiful morning." I'm like, these guys ripped off my dad's songs. But all right, well, we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping up.
Okay,
We got a couple hours in, I think, pretty close,
hour and a half.
and we got some good content in, comic book content, some gaming content, some music content. So hey, I think it's a successful content night.
Yeah, it was fun.
And we will just a real quick reminder where everyone can find your. I do have them pinned on the chats if anyone wants to click on those links, but where they can find your book, and remind them again when Heroic Tales 2 is launching. And
Okay, well, first off, I have my own YouTube channel, John's Long Box, where I talk about comics and sometimes board games, once in a while music, mostly comics. But at Fund My Comics, if you go to Fund My Comics, Heroic Tales 1, that's still available. I'm going to close that down probably the Thursday before my comic open. But Friday, April 4th, Heroic Tales number 2, the campaign's going to go live. Renzo is 50% done. The Mary half the book is done, being lettered right now, just done. All I gotta do is check for typos, and that's put to bed. And then Renzo is oh, he's halfway done with the other story, and then I pulled him off that, and he's doing the cards because we want to start for every $1,000. We're gonna do a card, and there's 20 cards made for this. There were 7 cards made for the first comic, but this comic, because of the story, there's a lot of cameos of the characters. So if you see a superhero in that comic, there will be a card for them. So I told him we gotta, I told the colorist we gotta rush out like 10. I did 8,000. So, but let's be optimistic and let's do 10. But then there's gonna be 20 cards. Next campaign, you could buy them and everything. So anyway, that's a long-winded story to say. We're going to be launching Friday, April 4th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Michael Bancroft's channel. And getting a lot of buzz. I get so nervous. Oh, my God, was I nervous for Heroic Tales 1? Dio, you could understand, right? Oh, my God, was I so nervous. I'm like, did I just... Because I laid out all the money for Heroic Tales 1, and now Heroic Tales 2, I'm using the money from Heroic Tales 1, you know what I mean? And I'm hoping Heroic Tales 2 does enough that I can do the Patriarch and Heroic Tales 3 and Eddy is doomed. You know what I mean? So there's a lot riding on this. So, but the buzz is good. I delivered on time. I was 3 weeks late, which embarrasses me, but I can't really complain of the way other people are late. So that's because it was about to go to print and one page had nothing, no word balloons, no dialogue. I sent the wrong file, and I was like, so I had to go to the bottom of the printers, and that delayed me 3 weeks. But I'm the only one who talks about it. Everybody's like, hey, delivered on time. I'm like, okay, all right.
You always see your DC says 3 weeks late.
Yeah, I make the most out of it. When I bring it up, people don't even remember, So thank you for that. But I think now people saw it got pretty good buzz. A couple of people criticized it, and I agreed with most of the people's criticisms. Some of the dialogue was a little wonky now that I think about it. So things like that. So now I'm working with my editor was my friends. You know what I mean? Now I'm working with a real editor. So we'll work that out. And people saw that the comic was good. The art was amazing. I delivered. I didn't steal your money. I delivered a product. I think there's a couple of people who they wanted to see if I could do it before they threw some money my way. So I think issue number 2 is, I don't know, fingers crossed. I think it'll do better.
Yeah, well, we hope so. I'm gonna, like I said, try to catch up tier and get both of them physical, and hopefully everyone else, if you haven't gotten issue 1, you'll do that, and if you have, you'll get issue 2, and be prepared for Eddy is Doomed and whatever else comes next.
Yeah.
And
so I have like Richard Meyer, he does his Jawbreakers, then he does his artsy fartsy books. So I want to do Heroic Tales and the Patriarch full on, and then I want to do little one shot. Like Eddy is Doomed is a one shot.
Yeah.
But if Eddy is Doomed does well, I would like to use, because Oscar did so cool designs for all of these characters. So I would like to do fake Silver Age comics, you know, with those characters. You know what I mean? Like make them look old fashioned. Giant gorillas, and you know what I mean, and girls, just fun, old stuff. And then I want to do a mythological, historical based comic that I tease a little bit about this because I want to get people excited, but I don't want to tell anybody what it is yet. And I'm really excited about that. Like if in a healthy industry, if I was working for the mainstream, the secret comic book is if it's half as good as I imagine it would be like the Eisners would be talking about it. So I'm so excited. And Renzo is like, can't wait to start drawing. So when he's finished with Heroic Tales 2, the finished art, we're going to make a couple of promos, a poster, because we want to practice, because I want it. Oscar, is going to color it. Have
Yeah.
you seen his Robe Eternal by Magma
Oh
Color?
yeah, his coloring. Yeah,
Yeah, Oscar colored that.
yeah.
I'll be like, we got to color it like that. So we're going to do a test promo to see if people are interested.
Yeah.
But oh my god, it's good. I think once you see this promo, you're gonna poop.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so yeah, if you're watching, you're out there, go get Hero Tales, go get issue 1, get ready to sign up. Do you have a sign up for issue 2, like or are you just gonna launch?
I'm just I have a Substack that I just forgot about until you reminded me. So if you go to Substack and look up John Bua BUA, you can sign up for that. Matter of fact, once we're done with this, I'm gonna write up on the Substack. I forgot all about it. I don't. Dio, do you find mailing lists are helpful?
I mean, I don't know if you know the guy Jolly Green. He definitely got me started on doing that, and I'm sure it is helpful. But I'm just, I think just using the regular sign up stuff might be easier for me.
What's the
It's just,
regular sign up stuff?
yeah, through the website, or through Indiegogo or Fund My Comic rather.
Okay.
But the mailer stuff, it's so much to handle, and it's too complicated, man. It's like the MailChimp and all that stuff.
I never read, like, no offense to anybody, but if I back your book, I don't read your messages.
Yeah.
Like one day, Tomb of Reckoning just shows up and I'm happy.
Exactly. I'm with you.
So what I think is getting me the most buzz is this. This got me more buzz than anything in the past 6 months. I'm just going to share this one more time if you don't mind. But this got everybody talking.
Yeah.
I wear my costume, you know what I mean? My character's costume. And I got people like throughout this whole talk, people just been subscribing to me on Twitter, because
Nice.
a hot chick. So there you go. Get yourself a hot chick. And this is Marcoda who does the comic Lady Alchemy, which I thought was a fun comic too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's working out. Like it's a tried and true seller, hot chicks.
Yeah.
But all right, so yeah, let's we'll go ahead and wrap up. Like I said, head to Fund My Comic for both John and Dio's campaigns. Dio's got his Tome of Reckoning. If you're interested in some good horror action comic, his
like
stuff's up
when's
there.
the next issue coming out, Dio?
So issue 3 should be going to print within a week, I think.
Oh, really?
Finally, yeah. I mean, it was late, but issue 4 is almost done being colored. So when that launches, it'll be ready to go, and that'll probably be I want to say like 2 or 3 months. I'll be launching that. So as soon as all the books are out to being mailed, it'll be launched. So it should be a 4 to 6 week turnaround on the print time. So a month after that, I'll be launching issue 4, and then I'm working on issue 5 right now. So,
and no spoilers, but if you have not yet gotten the digital copy or read it of issue 3, by the end of it, it jumps to a whole new level of crazy. So yeah, it's really really good.
Awesome, man. Thank you, brother.
So head to Fund My Comic for both those guys, both these guys' books. Hit up John's channel. Tomorrow you got Sunday Morning Comics, right?
Yeah, but Sunday Comics 10 a.m. We're going to talk about this comic. You put me on the spot. I didn't know we were going to, but this is tomorrow's comic for Sunday Comics, G.I. Joe #1.
Nice. Right up your alley, Crenshaw.
Yep. And then, but yeah, if you want this same passion and excitement about comics, and not only his own, but just in general, check out John's channel. But we're gonna go ahead and call it a night, and hope that everyone who watched enjoyed.
Good talking to you, John.
And we'll catch you guys all next time.